Hello and welcome back to Chit Chat with two T's. As usual, I am your host, counseling psychologist jvaldez, here to chat and normalize the discussion of mental health. And with me today, oh gosh, Ollie, please just ease me up. All my friends special, I felt told you this. But today we have extra special, and for these special people, please do not course, it doesn't take away anything from you, but she's my extra special friend, Mrs. Akilah Riley-Richardson. Welcome to the show, Akilah.
Hi. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
We are excited to have you with the weight. So, again, welcome to Chit Chat with two T's. And, we just usually start a little bit finding out about you. I like when people tell me about themselves. Because then you telling me what you want me to know from your perspective. Because we could have read your bio, We could have do that.
Yeah,
you could be here for an hour, but we could have done that. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a Black Afro Trinidadian woman who is invested in ensuring that my two children live a life where they feel secure within themselves and where they feel grounded. And my wish for them is the wish I have for myself. And my wish for them is my wish for all of the people that interact with me. That they live a life of what I've come to my 4 A's: authenticity, abundance, attunement, and alignment. And so that really is, when I think about who I am, I think about these 4 things that I want to guide my life. And I think about these 2 little people that I'd like to help to steer to find that within themselves. And as I navigate all of that, I take on all of these different roles. As an educator, I teach at the University of the Southern Caribbean. I am also a therapist. I work with persons who experience trauma. I'm a trauma professional, and I'm also a couples therapist as well. I am a trainer of therapists. I do a lot of education work, facilitation, etc. I am an ally. Yeah, I'm an ally of the LGBT community, and I'm also a social justice advocate. All of those things make up who I am. I'm also a walking contradiction, because
tell me about it.
Yeah, while I strive for authenticity and abundance and attunement and alignment,
yes,
all those nice things, there are times when I do not feel very abundant.
Yeah.
My self-esteem is like low. There are times when I'm anxious and frustrated, when I'm sad, when I'm like, Akilah, what are you doing and why? Where are your values? You're out of whack right now. There are times when I'm a mess and wondering, oh my God, if people saw me right now, they'd wonder, is she a therapist?
All therapists have that. All.
Who is this person?
Yeah.
What is this?
She can tell people to help themselves.
Yeah, oh God. So I am complicated. I have good days, I have bad days. But I'm learning that I've learned that all of that is okay. Yeah. So I real good now with all of them pieces existing in one human being. Yeah. So a few days ago, when I was having a bad parenting moment, and that happens often. It's like I'm wanting to be better at this and doing this behavior now. But all of this is humanness and self-forgiveness. Yeah. So that's me. That's me. And I'm a wife of one. Yeah. So
I
it
love
could
it. I
it could
love
be
it.
more.
I love that you specified that, you know,
I'm a wife of one.
because it would have been really weird if after this is posted that somebody says no, she's actually a wife of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for
I'm glad I needed to declare it. And I'm a wife of one, and one who seems to be okay with all of this excitement and goodness and madness in all one body. So
listen. There's a lot of love. The story is one for the books, but we won't get into that right now.
yeah, yeah. It was at the wedding. Yes.
So, Akila, I love that. I love your 4 A's. I love that the fact that you have 4 A's and your name begins with A. I don't know. I'm just weird like that. You're welcome. And I think that is something that we all search for. So I like that those are your guiding principles: abundance, authenticity, attunement, and alignment. I really like that. I might take it. Just so you know that. But we're all human, and we all have all those messy pieces. But they all fit together, right? In who we are. So I really like that. Thank you for sharing that. And that's a lot happening in your figurative cup. So I'm going to show you my literal cup. Okay. Viewers can't. Seems my light is crazy. But it's my Equilibre cup done by Fantasy Factory. Right? Oh. So cute. Get at her, guys. And I have in my cup actually one of our featured products from our first season called Panorama Cacao Drinking Chocolate. It's very good.
Pops.
So, yes, girl, it's a bit of a cooled morning here in South Trinidad. So I decided to have some drinking chocolate to warm me up. So, what do you have in your cup?
Wow.
Ooh, fancy.
Ooh. My friend had a birthday party that I could not attend, but this was a token.
Yes.
My name on it.
I love it.
And I am having Premier Orchard.
Premier Orchard.
Well, it's not really Premier, but it's Orchard. Because I have lots of orchard in my house because I have 5-year-olds. So yeah.
Also, just kind of shocked me with the 5 because when did they get 5? When did they
5 years old? So I'm gonna sip it.
You better sip your juice.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Do a little ice.
And is it pure orchard? Is it like apple cherry, pure orange? I should say.
I think this is apple.
Okay. So you have the fancy orchard flavors. I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. So what else is going on with you? So we got a little bit about who you are, but what is happening with Akilah? What's going on with you right now? What's in your cup?
What is happening with Akilah? Well, professionally, I just finished, I'm in the tail end of teaching a course called Relational Privilege and Systemic Trauma for the Academy of Therapy Wisdom. I just finished that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I on to next year where I'll be doing some more teachings around this idea of relational privilege. So what it really is, relational privilege as a concept that I coined. And it's really about us looking at as intimacy, as elusive privilege, meaning that for some groups of people, being able to feel safe to connect to another human being is very easy. But for some, it can feel like an elusive privilege because there are so many things around them. There's so many experiences of systemic or historical trauma that could result in them not feeling safe with people in general. I'm speaking here primarily about persons like LGBTQI folks or, Black persons who may experience racism and different groups that are minoritized or marginalized. So I've started teaching internationally about this whole idea of relational privilege. So professionally, that's what's been up. It's been me in different spaces teaching about relational privilege. And just kind of doing some writing now, with a colleague of mine. And we're in we're talking in our paper, we're talking about imagination, right? It's my favorite new word.
Hello.
Yeah, and we're talking about how certain kinds of trauma can limit our capacity to feel free to imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So a huge part of what I've been doing now is ensuring that all folks examine their own life history and see how it limits the ability to imagine and start to take control of their lives through new imaginations. I recently launched an institute called the BIPOC Relational Healing Institute. It's not that fancy. It's just like
I mean, you said you launched an institute. I don't
yeah,
know what part of that does not sound fancy to you.
I think I need to say it. I start a thing, but
That
it's with
sounds close to the wife of two as opposed to professional endeavors. So we can stick with the institute. That's fine.
The institute is the BIPOC Relational Healing Institute. So
what is BIPOC? Yeah.
BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color. So it's really about helping marginalized folks internationally to look at their own mental health, their own relationships, and so the Relational Healing Circles gives a space. Relational Healing Institute, gives a space with different offerings for you to be able to look at the effects of racism and historical trauma on your own life, etc., etc. So that is what I have been doing. The institute, the teachings, raising two children. And I think I'm doing it okay with raising two children.
All at once.
And a wife of one.
I can't wait to start using that. I love it. Wife of one. That's a lot happening. Like, because you say I'm raising two children, but the raising two children is all around, enveloping, all in between, all the professional stuff. And the professional stuff is heavy because you are a busy bee. So that's a lot happening for you. But I just wanted to touch when you talked about Indigenous. Do you have interactions with our Indigenous people in terms of mental health?
I have not, and I'm so glad you said that because it just gave me an idea. Thanks, Jill.
You're welcome. I'll be collecting my commission at the end.
Yes, you told that I need to start doing some work here with the Indigenous community. That is so important.
It is, and we don't, because and I'll be honest, I don't know much about our Indigenous population. We learn things in school, and of course, that's not the extent of them as a people. There's so much more. Because of course we get a particular story. I mean, I remember Form 1, it was Caribs and Arawaks, and by the time I was in Form 6 doing Cape History, it was Taínos and Calinados. So I'm like, all right, there's a little something is missing. So I think that would be awesome. I know somebody who might be willing to be a part of that if you are looking for assistance in that area.
Okay. And I'm going to find a way to make some connection. Thank you so much for saying that.
You're welcome. And so dealing with all of this, I mean, you did say you are a couples therapist. What you have learned in terms of what you teach with regard to your relational privilege and everything else along that line, do you find it makes a big difference in terms of how you treat with your couples and what you're teaching them or assisting them with within your sessions?
Yes. It depends on who I'm working with. So if I'm working, because I work with people from different parts of the world, if I'm working with, let's say, a Black couple from the US, I also worked with a Black couple who was in the UK, Black Caribbean couple, having us speak about the impact of systemic trauma and racism and xenophobia on their connection, has been very important. So when I'm doing that kind of focused work, then it becomes very important. If I'm working with people who don't necessarily experience those features, then I bring in different modalities. For example, I'm trained in EFT, I'm training different things, right? And so I bring in those modalities into my work. And I'll say this, and I'm saying this not just for me, but I'm saying this, I guess, for all therapists. We also have to sit very closely and root our work in neuroscience, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, and Jay you and I would have spoken about this before.
Yeah.
Being able to understand how the human brain works becomes so very important when I'm watching what's happening with my clients. And being able to trust my own instinct and guts as well, you know, is also very important. So sometimes when I work, I kind of slow things down, close my eyes,
Yeah.
and I feel through it and see if what I'm feeling is what the client is feeling, you know. So that's how I kind of work right now with these modalities, with neuroscience, and with my own, because I'm creating a lot of my own stuff as well.
Yeah.
Inventing and writing and I've given myself, as I say that, I felt a bit of fear in saying that which is why I have to write this paper about imagination. Because, you know, the way our society, our world is one in which where there's assumption that only some people are allowed to produce knowledge. And it's typically those from the global north.
Yes.
Right? And so those of us here in the Caribbean and other parts of the global south.
Satellite countries.
Yes, we just consume it, adapt it, and use it. And that's a sort of that is another expression of colonialism and neocolonialism. Yeah. And in my paper about imagination, I talk a lot about that. The ways in which our practice in our field has been so colonized, where we don't believe that we are allowed to create and coin.
It's not good enough. What do you know?
What do you know?
It can't be, it's not universally applicable. It's from the Caribbean.
Right. Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah.
I've been pushing back against that. I've been pushing back against that for about 9 years now, and now I'm acting on it. And I'm meeting with other persons in our field. Like I had a beautiful meeting recently with the founder of the Black Mental Health Symposium. Just having this conversation around the fact that persons of color and persons from this part of the world really need to get stronger in terms of creating knowledge.
Yeah.
Doing research around their knowledge and sharing their knowledge, you know. And so while I felt this fear, and I know this fear that I experienced just now, is this deep historical knowing and this deep social knowing that we've been taught that we don't do this, we just take and adapt. And so I am rumbling with that and pushing back against that hard. Actually, at the Institute, the BIPOC Relational Healing Institute, one of the offerings is something called Pride Circles. Yeah, the Pride, PRIDE, it stands for Pivot, Rumble, Imagine, Develop, Evolve. And very quickly, I'll tell you what that, if you permit, I'll tell you what that means. So the pivot is, so what we do is we have people sit, let's say, it's designed for therapists, right? We have therapists sit with, let's say, a case that they're working on, a problematic case. And then we ask you to pivot, look inside. What is happening for you as you sit with this case? What are your feelings and thoughts you're having? Everything, what knowings, what questions, everything. And then the R is to rumble with it. Where did you learn? What is feeding this?
Yeah.
How do you know what you know? How did you learn what you learned? And what are the possible agendas behind what you've learned? So for example, if you learned that this client is dissociating, or this client has some kind of, all these things we learn in CBT, right? The client is generalizing, or whatever different things. I'm beginning to ask people, you know, how you know that, how you're aware, and what do you think is what's the positionality, or what do you think was the agenda behind the person that created that knowledge for you? So you're interrogating your knowledge in a different way. Yeah, you're looking at your knowledge itself, you're interrogating it, and you're asking yourself about the person that wrote it. Most of us have no idea about the people who shared or the theorists. Right?
Nope.
We just go about and we taking their stuff.
That's what we learn.
Right. And so what happens is that knowledge seems to become this. It looks like this objective truth that we all kind of roll with. But truth be told, all knowledge has a context, right? And all knowledge was born out of somebody who had some kind of an agenda. Even mine. My thing is about liberation work. So when I share my work with you, I'm not even pretending that my positionality and my biases are not behind it. All
it's
knowledge,
not objective.
no knowledge is.
Yeah.
So the rumble is really sitting with what you've learned and asking yourself, how do I know what I know? Why did I accept this? And it's not for you. You may come out of it still being okay with it, but it's just rumbling. And I recognize the rumbling can be very uncomfortable, especially people from this part of the world, right? Because the way that from all of your entire schooling process is a process of there's a teacher and there's a student.
Yeah, there's a dynamic. There's a power dynamic there.
Education is never co-created. So I remember seeing my children learning how to write. I mean, taught that they have to write. This is how you have to write your A, and then children might be like, no, okay, I'm writing my A this way.
Yeah.
Now when you say, but your teacher says you have to do it this way, right? And so you're always taught that there is a way, and what that does, the process of that is that it slowly, I think, and I'm using this word very deliberately, decimates your belief that you can be a creator of knowledge. Yeah. And so the pride circles and the R there is really about you rumbling with this whole thing of what is knowledge? How did I come to this? And the I now, after you've done that work, is to imagine what are the other possibilities here for working with this case. Yeah. And stretch your imagination beyond what's in the textbook. Consult what you felt in the P. That's a pivot. Consult what you felt in the rumble and ask yourself, what else can you imagine? And after you imagine, then you need to develop it. You need to take it, you need to document it, you need to spend some time with it, you need to knit it together, pull it together, and construct it into your own kind of model of how to work. And then the E is evolve. So you've had the work, you've had this body of work with you. What do you now do with yourself? How do you know understand yourself? Yeah, because you can't be out there creating your models and stuff and you're not thinking of yourself differently.
Yeah.
So E is really about you renaming yourself, you re-understanding. But it works.
Yeah, it works.
The BIPOC Relational Healing Institute, I keep saying relational healing circles because we have that. I'll tell you about that shortly. The BIPOC Relational Healing Institute, the Pride Circles, we commenced with the Pride Circles. We have our first cohort in March 2023.
Right.
You want to be a part-time JL? I'll sign up.
I mean, hey.
Right.
I want to re-understand myself too.
But we are working. I'll open up space for your JL.
Thank you.
It's very cheap, actually. It's $80 US a month. It's
pretty cheap.
It is cheap. It's one session a month. So it's a 6-month thing.
Okay.
One session per month. Each session is 2 hours.
Okay.
And what's nice is that you now have a community.
Right.
Yeah,
you're not doing this alone.
Yeah. So kind of a small Facebook group, or email group, and so we share materials in there around knowledge creation, all sorts of, so I am excited. I got even more excited as I was talking about it just now, but this is the first time I've actually articulated pride. Like yes.
Here we are. We love to be groundbreaking here at Chit Chat with 2 T's. So good job.
Yeah, this is my first. I've documented pride because I'm documenting pride for the paper now. But this is the first time that I have sat and said D means do.
Right, right.
Like, you get to tear.
So it feels real. Live.
Groundbreaking. But I'm scared. I'm scared because I think the rumble is what gets scary for me.
Yeah.
Recognizing that, I've had so many experiences in the last yeah, and I've interacted with other thought leaders. And there's a particular thought leader called Stan Tapkin, pretty well known in the field, and he has been an amazing person to me. And he and I had this very open conversation. It's also recorded and in the course I'm teaching now, about just what it means to be a thought leader, a theorist, a creator, and just all the politics behind that, and the amount of politics and privilege that gives some people access to share knowledge and write books.
Right.
Why some people don't.
Yeah.
And that is what really, really stood out to me when I realized, okay, so I have all this knowledge from my university school education, but I need to recognize that what I have learned is a politics behind what I have learned. I learned what I was given access to.
Yes.
Those who had access to give it to me, had power and privilege on their side. And that has been hard for me to take. And I'm like, okay, so then what's going on in the world? Who am I? What is psychology? What is social?
Well, as you said that, and it actually kind of segues really well into our next segment. And maybe you could just continue on, because it seems like that's where you were going in terms of what boils your water. What would be a pet peeve or anything that kind of gets you a little bit incensed. And I think we were close there. So we can share some more.
Yeah, neocolonialism and racism gets to me.
Yeah, 100%.
100. What I think is, what I'm realizing, this may sound very silly, I'm realizing that this will sound kind of strange. A lot of us are walking robots, myself included.
Walking robots.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think it's what gets to me, but I'm not angry about it. I'm more sad about it because I know I am part of the problem.
Right.
That a lot of us, especially from this part of the world, we don't know about true capacity to imagine and create and develop knowledge.
Wow.
And so I'm pushing back against that. That gets to me. I think it's not just in the field of psychology and social work, it's in so many other things.
Yeah.
But it's really because of our history. Our history has been one of subjugation.
Yeah.
And live it even now. Mm-hmm. And that gets to me. That boils my water. Besides a good kettle, that boils my water.
Thank you. Yeah, and it would. And I think even though I'm so careful about using the term evolve, but we have moved through time. I'll say that. We moved through time, and people would think, okay, because we have done that, we are in a better position now. And in some ways we are, but in a lot of ways, things haven't changed. Things have not changed. So I think it makes sense that in 2022, you can still be sad or upset about racism and lack of access and, what that could mean for how we view ourselves and our capacities to imagine. So that makes a lot of sense to me. And I even want to bring it back to the imagination aspect of it, because that is a concept I didn't think about. And especially in your work with couples, is there, I don't want to make any assumptions, so it might sound silly from me, but is there any differences culturally in the imagination or ability to imagine between, let's say, what you've experienced with Caribbean couples and North American or UK-based couples?
I haven't. Mm-hmm. I haven't experienced a substantial difference. Mm-hmm. And as you say that, but what I have been saying to all of my couples is that I'm inviting people now into what I call a new relational imagination. So even in the course that I teach, I ask them, because I know their definitions of how every couple of intimacy and their definitions of what it looks like to have a healthy relationship. But I do something with my couples where I have them to engage in relational imagination, mm-hmm. where they're imagining what do they want for themselves. and I want to stretch them past the things like, oh, healthy communication. What in the world does that mean? You know, people just say that, oh, we want good
Yeah, boy.
communication, but the other side doesn't
Yeah.
matter. What in the world does that mean?
Yeah.
So all these things we just kind of say, right? So really putting people into a space of relational imagination, because many times, and I got this line from Adrienne Marie Brown, popular writer and activist in the US. Sometimes we're living in somebody else's imagination and calling it truth. Yeah.
Say it again.
Yeah, the big
Say
line.
it again.
See, I
Yes.
gotta say that's hoping it, I was hoping it landed, but I didn't do it with her. But yeah, she said
Say it again. No, really actually say it again.
Sometimes we are living in somebody else's imagination and calling it truth.
Wow.
And that line is why I push my pride circles and why I've started using the source of a relational imagination. Because, and I would say this, whenever I work with, off of couples work, the other day I was working with a Black woman in the US. And we're talking about imagination and why. And that's just it, you know. That I know it might sound so simple, but people not thinking about, oh my God, I can create my life. Oh my God, the life I live right now, the way I interact with my spouse, or the way my dreams, my family, or so many things, they're not necessarily mine. It's somebody else's imagination. And I'm calling it truth. And a lot of times when I see couples struggle or individuals struggle, I bring up that question: whose imagination are you living in? Yeah. And then it's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, we live in somebody else's imagination.
Yeah.
We're living in somebody else's imagination. You know, strangely enough, I want to share this story, which is might be embarrassing, but I was at a particular place yesterday with my 2 children. And my 5-year, they're twins, they're 5 years old. And they were counting, I don't know if you call it curtains or whatever it's. They were counting something and moving something. And I'm there watching them with curiosity, right? Just looking at them, enjoying the space. I'm at the line in the bank, and they're enjoying the space. And I wanted them to sit down and
your Caribbean parenting. Yeah.
No. Because I'm concerned what other people thinking. But then I decided, I'm watching them, and they're just living, they're just we have the space,
They're being children.
They're being children. These are children that just came out of a pandemic. They're out in the world. And while that happened, the teller told me to tell them to stop touching something. So I told them stop. And then there's this other woman who looked very upset. And then she said something about indisciplined children, right? Yeah, girl. So I sit down, can't do so. When I put up a boundary and I say, outside Fluffy, you're not processing
outside you, Fluffy.
I'm not processing you as your stuff. And then I thought about, but I knew exactly what she was speaking about, and I could see how she could construct it like that. And I said to myself, this is this Caribbean imagination, this West Indian parenting imagination.
There is a West Indian / Caribbean parenting imagination. There is that.
If you walk with a child, they must stand up straight like a pin. They can't move, they can't this. And I refuse to use the word indisciplined, because I wasn't indisciplined. They were in space and they enjoy the space and they want to count things and they want to see. Like they were counting. It's not. They're like, oh my gosh, 1, 2, 3, apply math skills. But in the West Indian Caribbean parenting imagination.
Indisciplined.
Yeah, indisciplined. They weren't hurting anybody. They were literally just enjoying. But and I am learning to stretch my imagination. But I'm sharing that story with you because while I was there stretching my imagination, I had to pivot. I had to rumble.
Right.
Feel uncomfortable. I still do.
Yeah.
It's scary. It's scary to push back, to push against dominant imaginations, and back to couples. And I don't want to veer to think back to couples and individuals. I can feel how hard it is when people think about new ways of being in the world, right? That may be actually healthier for their relationships or healthier for their lives. I can feel there's a block, and the block is that thing that you receive from when you were a child growing up,
that seed that was planted.
This is what's planted. But not just that, you don't get to create. You're supposed to listen. This is how you write your A.
Yeah.
Write your A like this. And so that understanding that there is something bigger than you to tell you how to be, right? And I'm not speaking here about anything theistic or anything like that. I'm speaking about a norm.
Yeah.
And it kills you. And I've seen it in my my therapy room all the time. And I have to say, whose imagination are you living in? Yeah. And it's time for us to push ourselves as therapists to get more creative with our work, stay close to what clients are saying to us, but also to get our clients to reimagine their lives.
I mean, with these truths you drop in, I feel like I should have been drinking something much stronger than cocoa because you are really blowing me away. I mean, I know it was brighter, but you're bright. You're bright. You're bright. Yeah, you're bright. So that's really amazing and that's really good work. And I mean, that's a lot, especially for me as a practitioner, to kind of hold on to and see, you know, how do I reimagine things? How do I re-understand myself and even that space that we hold for them, which is so sacred? And how do we make sure that these are some of the things that they go away with and things that we need to learn as well? You know, so I really thank you for bringing that forward. When I look back now, because I mean, you know, hindsight is 2020. Anybody who knows me knows I'm a huge Sesame Street fan. Classic Sesame Street, not whatever they have today, but Sesame Street of old. And when I look back now, because I use a lot of Sesame Street if I'm doing outreaches, you know, facilitations and trainings, because to me, there's always something that I can pull. And you're talking about imagination, and the video that comes to mind, I don't know if you remember it, but it's when the boy is in his room and his dog is pretending to be an alligator. Imagine me an alligator. You know, Mom, Dad, there's an alligator in my room. So, you know, and I think about the people, because adults made Sesame Street, and there were certain things that they wanted to teach children from young. So even take a breath, smell a smell, sniff a sniff, take a breath. Right, that is about deep breathing and helping to regulate your system, right, so that you can manage your emotions better. You know, but I mean, of course, I didn't know that was a cool song. It's fun, it's funny, right? But all of that to say, we do have the ability to really start from, you know, 5 years old, if not before, to really just encourage that stretched imagination, that imagination that is so flexible that for them. And for other children, there really seems to be no limit. There seems to be no limit when it comes to their imagination. So I love that you're able to bring that into mental health. So thank you for that. And so I would have given you one of my ways of relaxing, you know, in terms of old Sesame Street videos. So for you, teaching, creating knowledge, parenting, wifing of one, all of these things, how do you manage your mental health? Like, how is your mental health?
That's a real good question.
Everybody's favorite.
How do I manage my mental health? Well, first of all, I have to say I enjoy what I do. Right. So like when I'm working, like when I'm writing, that actually relaxes me. So I don't see it as you see that whole thing about work and play, and in so many ways my work is my play.
Right.
So I have killed that whole imagination of sometimes when I go on vacation, sometimes I sit and I write and I do work and I realize I enjoy it. It relaxes me. I don't do all the work.
Right.
Sometimes, because there's some parts of my work I'm like, okay, no, this is not aligned with vacationing.
No.
But sitting and doing my writing and sitting down and thinking, I've always enjoyed being in my head, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
But so sitting in my thoughts relaxes me. Exercising, I like to exercise. Yeah.
Big up the CoreFit team.
Big up the CoreFit. And for those who don't know what CoreFit is, when we had the lockdown in 2020, created this thing called QuaraFit, quarantine fitness. So we were all exercising on Zoom. So exercising really helps as well. And I wish I got more sleep, but sleeping helps.
Sleep is great.
Sleeping helps. And I realize that doing enjoyable things with the children relaxes me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying enjoyable things in particular because yesterday we just went to the mall, and despite the little incident with the banking line,
Yeah.
I realized I enjoy just chilling
Just
with
being.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just being with them and chilling, watching movies. My husband is a movie fan, so going to see a movie,
I love it.
yeah, those things relax me.
That is amazing. And I think from what I know of you, imagination has never really been your issue. Like that is never something we have to worry about. I find you to be quite a creative person. So this doesn't surprise me in terms of your writing. Yes, I know it's research and it's work, but it doesn't surprise me because it's still your creativity is coming through. I mean, I remember, and I hope you don't kill me for this. I remember when you said that you were younger and you thought that you were East Indian. So to me, because
For the first 7 years of my life, I did.
Right? So to me, your imagination has been quite vivid and alive for a very long time.
I was East Indian, and I have no regrets about being East Indian. I loved it.
Yeah, tell us about that. Like was it just the it wasn't just the music and the TV, right?
It probably was actually. But I was a child and I loved Indian music. I loved it.
It is bang. Yeah.
I didn't know anything besides 103 and 106 when I was a child. It was I loved it. I could tell you all the names of all the actors and actresses of the shows.
I believe it.
It was just glorious. And then when I went to secondary school, they introduced me to things like that. So I was like, oh, what?
And then a new side of you was born?
I was like, what? 98.9?
Yes, FM. Hey.
96.1? What is this? But I still have an appreciation. I don't get to listen as much as I used to in my time. But I still have an appreciation.
Welcome to Trinidad and Tobago, folks.
Yes.
Yeah. We are multicultural and we're a melting pot. Yeah. The two T's. Yes. Thanks, Ricardo. Trinidad and Tobago. So, I mean, Akilah, we just want to thank you so much for being with us today. I mean, this was really amazing. I loved learning more about what you're doing. You can know somebody and you're still not too sure of all the things that they're doing, and then you learn about it and you're like, wow, this is why we're friends. I'm learning so much. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And we hope that we will see you again. You're now an official friend of Chit Chat.
With the cup.
With your cup. Don't worry, we'll get some merch for you. We'll organize. Ricardo working on something for me, so don't worry.
I want some panorama cacao. Thanks.
Perhaps. Okay. Let's see what we can do. All right. So, solar panorama cacao, you all heard. Akilah wants some of that, so you need to get that done. And they can live in close to you, everywhere to me past Grand Bazaar is like the same place. So
when they live in a diggle.
It's probably where it is again, Ricardo. It's somewhere between the trees. St. Joseph. I think it's St. Joseph. I could be wrong. Yeah. But we'll fix that. And is there anything you would like to share with us? I mean, how can we find you if anybody wants to see you professionally? How would they get onto you? Any handles, social media, or websites you want to share with us?
Akilah Riley-Richardson.com. That's AKILAHRILEYRICHARDSON.com.
You don't realize how long it is until you're spelling it.
Yeah, AKILAHRiley-Richardson.com. You can also, if you want to work with me as well, you can also find me at Wholeness and Wellness Counselling Services.
Big up Wholeness and Wellness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, look on my website. It's there. Once you Google me, you'll see it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So guys, you heard it. This way, if you want to find Akilah, and trust me, you want to find Akilah, right? And we will also have your information in our description box below. All right. So any parting words for us?
Guys, go out there and imagine. And
Go out
ask
there and
yourself
imagine.
everything you do, or every time you feel distress, ask yourself, whose imagination am I living in? And often you can't find the answer, which means you need to create a new imagination.
I love it. I love it. And I'll be asking myself that question quite a lot. I think I needed to hear that. I think we all needed to hear that. So viewers and listeners, this was for you. As are all episodes of Chit Chat with Two T's. So Akilah, again, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence. We truly appreciate your being here. And again, I am jvaldez, your host of Chit Chat with Two T's. We will see you again next time. And don't forget, we normalize in mental health discussion. All right? Take care, guys. And see you.